Despite its influence, the time span of Britpop was so very brief. From the release of The Drowners and Pop Scene, through Blur vs Oasis, to its death knell with the release of OK Computer, merely 5 years and change. But the band that best represented that fleeting yet culturally enduring moment, the class divides, the classic pop literacy, and the misfits have overrun the country attitude, is Pulp. Formed in 1978, but finally with a chance at chart success in the Britpop era, the band, fronted by the awkwardly charismatic Jarvis Cocker, produced some of the most cuttingly insightful tracks of the 90s, with Do You Remember the First Time, Misshapes, and This Is Hardcore. But their 1995 tale of class, sex, and supermarkets would define Britpop forevermore. This is New British Canon, and this is the story of common people. Pulp were formed in Sheffield in the north of England in 1978 by the 15-year-old Jarvis Cocker and his school friend Pete Dalton. Named after the Michael Caine film, they wouldn't play their first gig until 1980. By this point, Cocker and Dalton had already lost their first 2 members. Frequent lineup changes would soon become commonplace for the group. In 1981, Pulp gained their first bit of national exposure after gaining a session on indie godhead John Peel's show on BBC Radio 1. Their set showed off their rudimentary keyboard-affected sound, Cocker's vocals assuming the tone of a Yorkshire Scott Walker, their music a mixture of fellow Sheffield bands The Human League and Comstat Angels. A disco-fied post-punk that would later be refined, evolve, and follow the band to their mid-90s heyday. Pulp's focus and only consistent member was Cocker. His gangly frame, glasses, charity shop fashion, and even his left-field first name marked him out from the normals of his hometown, but would define his music and Pulp's outcast status. Lyrically, he wrote about sex in ways few others dared.
Little girl with blue eyes, there's a hole in your heart, and one between your legs.
I was struck by the massive discrepancy between the way relationships were depicted in the songs I'd heard on the radio and the way I was experiencing them in real life. So I decided to attempt to redress the balance, to put in all the awkward bits and the fumblings. This became the blueprint for the way I worked. An attempt to marry inappropriate subject matter to fairly conventional pop song structures, to try to create the kind of pop music I wish had been there for me in my hour of need. The rest of the 80s would provide Pulp limited upward momentum. Though they released 2 albums in the form of It and Freaks, revolving door lineups, problems with their independent label, and Cocker falling out of a window trying to impress a girl stunted their progress. Pulp remained a local band, only really appealing to those that liked the indiest of indie. One good thing to come out of the 80s was in 1984, the addition of Russell Sr. on guitars and violin, Pulp's Johnny Marr to Cocker's Morrissey. Despite this, while Pulp never officially broke up, in 1988 Cocker moved to London to study film and video at St. Martin's College. During the 90s, the fortunes of Pulp would improve significantly. In 1990, their single My Legendary Girlfriend had been an NME's Single of the Week.
My legendary girlfriend, she is crying tonight.
As the decade wore on and the prevailing British guitar music trends of jangle pop, shoegaze and baggy evolved into the more amorphous and yet more commercially viable Britpop movement, Pulp became a band of note. With their burbling synths, danceable indie grooves, and Cocker's outcast charisma, the veteran band for once seemed to fit in with the zeitgeist, alongside bands like Suede, Blur, and Oasis. Pulp's 1994 major label debut, His and Hers, had been a breakthrough for the band. It had managed to reach number 9 in the UK charts, and 2 of its singles, Do You Remember the First Time? And a re-release of Babies.
Oh, I wanna
had been the band's first to break the top 40. His and Hers was later nominated for a Mercury Music Prize. Things were looking up for the band. When playing Mid-Afternoon at Reading Festival in 1994, the band had debuted a work-in-progress version of a new track, with lyrics not quite bolted down.
She was Greek, she sounded first full of knowledge.
By this point, the lineup of Pulp, alongside Cocker, consisted of Candida Doyle on synthesizers, Russell Sr. on violin, Steve Mackey on bass, Nick Banks on drums, and touring musician, soon-to-be full-timer, Mark Webber on guitar. Coming into 1995, this version of Pulp and this inauspicious track would make the group a household name.
This song's called Common People, and this is about common people, and I'm one. Let's hear it.